Greetings and star blessings. So I just want to make a few comments about the upcoming Chiron Jupiter conjunction. And there it is there. That's the exact alignment, which is on the 12th of March, 2023. Now, I've been thinking about this a lot for a number of different reasons, including people sending me emails, asking me questions, comments people making on posts that I share on Facebook. And a lot of it, is seems to be based on people experiencing quite a bit of vulnerability. And I also see some posts that I think are a little bit misleading because of Jupiter's presence, because Jupiter is a benefic and generally inherently brings no harm. We just tend to see it when it's there with another planet as the one that's going to, be the one that's going to offer all the great things, as it were. And it does have a lot of great things to offer, there's no question about it. But I think it's really important to not underestimate the difficult side of Chiron. Whilst Chiron is this energy that can be interpreted and understood in a number of different ways and is very prominent in the charts of healers, astrologers, practitioners of various kinds, just people who are interested in helping and healing. And in my experience over the years, one thing I've noticed, even in my own practice as a counselor, as a therapist, as an astrologer, whatever, other people's charts and so forth, typically people who are drawn to the healing and helping realms or sides of life are people who have been through the fire, people who have been deeply wounded, who have experienced a lot of pain and suffering in their life. And that seems to be a strong characteristic when it comes to working with Chiron energy. But there's several things to consider. First of all, this new conjunction, which is in Aries, a few days before that, Venus was with them. And I think this is going to be, a lot of possibly relationship difficulties and relationship breakups, relationship heartaches, and things of that nature. It's not an easy energy. And so I think it's better to step into it from a clear space of awareness of what it activates and brings up inside all of us. Not with a negative mindset and a judgmental mindset, but a realistic one and an honest one that helps us address the very deep wounds or fears that we have ourselves, because it is in Aries. So it's got so much to do with our own individuality, identity, and who we are as a whole person. I'll talk more about that in a minute, but the first thing that I want to show you guys is that I was having a quick look, and this is really super interesting. Okay, that's not going to enlarge. So I went back as 1970, okay, and so Chiron and Jupiter were last together in the sign of Aries in 1976. That's a long time ago. So that shows us that it takes many, many years for Chiron and Jupiter to come together in Aries, okay? Because in a couple of weeks' time, the conjunction is going to be in Aries. So it's a new cycle beginning with those two planetary bodies again, new phase conjunction. But the last time that occurred was in 1976. Now, many of you wouldn't have even been born, And many of you would be. Many of you would be having your Chiron return, or have had it, or are nearing it. Some of you might be in a position where Chiron is square to your natal Chiron. You know, there's all sorts of variations depending on your date of birth, etc. But from a general sort of overview, it's important to understand that this conjunction in the sign of Aries only last occurred in 1976. And if you sort of scroll down and have a look, you'll see the next conjunction was in 1990, and that was in Cancer. And then the next conjunction was in 2009, and that was in Aquarius. And now the next conjunction is the one coming up, which is in Aries again. So the cycle begins again between these two planetary bodies. So I just wanted to show you guys that, just to show you that it's not a conjunction that occurs often, first of all. Second of all, when it starts in Aries, which is the beginning of the zodiac, to do, you know, a whole entire cycle, you know, it's almost 50 years, so it's a very long time. So that's obviously going to speak to huge collective issues, you know, the state of society, the state of culture, everything that Jupiter represents in terms of the social constructs and laws and things of that nature are definitely going to be activated in different ways with this Jupiter-Chiron conjunction. Now, the other thing to consider as well is that the last time they were conjunct in 1976, it's really super interesting because Chiron was not discovered until 1977. So they begin their conjunction together, and then a year later, Chiron is actually discovered. So there's something to be said for that as well. I mean, back in the 70s, when Chiron was discovered in 77, that's when the whole thing of healing really sort of became a big trend, if you like, in the world, in third dimension reality. Lots of lots of different healers and therapists and practitioners, and, you know, books and workshops and articles and all sorts of things really were born during that time in a very strong way. Big wave of it came through back in 1977 when Chiron was discovered. And that's typically the case when a planet is discovered. There is a shift in the collective consciousness or collective unconsciousness that seems to manifest. So fast forward nearly 50 years later, they come together again in a world that we live in, which looks very different to what it did in 1976. So there's, you know, pretty much bigger implications here of this Jupiter-Chiron conjunction from that collective perspective. And what I suppose we are ready to evolve towards in this next stage of life and evolution in this point in time. The relationship theme, I think, is pretty important, particularly because Venus formed a conjunction to Chiron and Jupiter. And so even though Venus is a very fast-moving body, this, you know, lining up with these planets, she just brings in the blend of energy around the love that we would have to put into this work on our faith, Jupiter, and on our own personal wounds, Chiron. It's very, very complex, and I would have liked to have spent a little bit longer, but I don't have the time today. But I just really wanted to just, you know, offer some reflections from from that bigger picture level to understand that this combination doesn't happen every other day. And we have to apply it to the context of this reality that is before us at the moment, which is pretty cataclysmic in nature still. So I think it's hard to actually predict what this Jupiter Chiron new phase conjunction will completely activate, you know, because it's a new phase conjunction, so we don't know. We'll know as the energies proceed forward. A new phase conjunction is a new beginning. And this is like a double signature, because it's a new phase conjunction, which is an Aries signature, and they are in Aries as well. So it's a double signature of Aries, of new beginnings. But it could also very likely activate a lot of suppressed, hidden, painful memories and material around our sense of faith in ourself, in life, in God, Goddess, and all of that. The Venus really goes straight to the heart of who we love, how we love, and how we are loved, and how we have participated in the relationships that we have or have had and are having. And I suppose really understanding our own position, Aries, what we bring to the table, and how we show up in every interaction and relationship we have, how we contribute or keep in play things that we may not really be happy with, or really not like, or things that bring us pain and suffering. But how are we keeping that space with that interaction, with that person, with that relationship in that way, by the behavior that we bring into it? So these are really important reflections and questions to think about with this Jupiter Venus Chiron conjunction. Now, Jupiter and Venus, you know, they are the two most beautiful lights in the sky, and as they are approaching at the moment, they're actually today, which is the 28th of February, I think they're only a degree apart. So you're seeing them in the western sky setting. Really an outstanding, beautiful visual astronomical phenomena. But from the point of view of the work that we are doing on our own self, Aries, it is probably going to pull off the Band-Aid from things that we've covered up in ourselves, you know, things that we are very vulnerable about, scared of, hold deep pain about, and so on and so forth. So ultimately it can be, you know, a cathartic experience, but it cannot be that if we don't acknowledge and be honest with what we have experienced, what we are experiencing, what we're feeling, and how we might be contributing to that as well. And also bring in courage, because it takes a lot of courage to be really honest about the state of affairs in one's life. You know, taking that sort of owning our own life, owning our own stuff, owning our own pain, even though it may come from others, by how others treat us or how others speak to us and so on and so forth. But we allow that in some kind of way by participating That's the bottom line. So I think this energy can be really painful, but also very powerful in helping us find the courage to be honest and open with what we need to address in our own life and in our relationships especially. And also, just going back to Jupiter Chiron, in our sense of faith of the infinite source creation to all things, our relationship to that, our connection to that, you know, at the highest sort of esoteric, transcendent level, Chiron Jupiter would be incredible from the point of view of healing, inspiring others, bringing out the best in others, helping others connect to their own aspirations and dreams and visions and goals, acting as a mentor, helping other people nurture that aspect of themselves, who is the healer as well, holding space for that, you know, all those sorts of things. But it takes a lot of consciousness to be operating from that level without bringing in our own subjective thoughts or desires or pains, or, you know, just projecting our own stuff onto anything or anyone for that matter. So I think largely what we're really looking at, particularly with Venus, Jupiter, Chiron, is the wounded sense of self that stands in relation to other Libra, and the portal for this is really working on how we show up, what we want to bring to the table, and how we might let others do the same as well, and finding some balance in that as well, because there's a lot of imbalance in this world on every single spectrum, and more so now than ever before from the point of view of our lifetime anyway. Hence the cataclysmic nature of this world. There's just such a huge imbalance with the disrespect to natural law and so on and so forth. We can just keep going on and on about that, but it's just evident. Nature herself is completely balanced. She's in tune with every rhythm, every cycle. It is our own human nature that resists or says no to this or to that or to whatever. So who was it that said, I can't remember who it was, but there's no coming to, might have been Carl Jung, there's no coming to consciousness without experiencing any pain. That's just the reality of this human condition, and also the soul's desires, choosing to evolve through life after life after life. So that basic idea or philosophy or whatever you want to call it is, you know, is at the core of all these transits and portals that present themselves, that speak to us individually and also speak to the collective as a whole human family. So that's all I really wanted to share for today. I just thought it was very interesting to consider that the last time Jupiter and Chiron in Aries were together was in 1976. And here they are again. So, you know, you could say that this Jupiter-Chiron conjunction is, you know, it's a new cycle that we're going to see unfold over the next 50 or so years or less. So there's that level. There's the level of where is this conjunction occurring in your birth chart. If you've got Chiron in Aries and you're having a Chiron return, this would be mirroring things that, you know, happened when you were a little child. It could also be a time to finally put things to rest that were triggered and activated when that cycle first began. So, yeah, it's just about understanding it from your own personal chart and where you are at in your life at the moment. It's a very deep one, and I feel it is going to activate quite a few difficult experiences. And that's not to put a damper on it, and that's not to be negative, but it is just about acknowledging that life is difficult. Evolving is not easy. Becoming conscious is not easy. Empowering and standing in our truth and being responsible for our life is not easy. It takes a lot of courage, you know. You have to step out of the bounds of Saturn to get to Chiron and then get to Uranus. I've said this so many times over the years. When we are working with Chiron, it's because we are stepping outside of Saturn and working towards Uranus, which is to become liberated, to become free. Freedom's got nothing to do with the external state of affairs, but it's an internal knowing, feeling, state, and being. And to get to Uranus, we have to go through Chiron's cave, like I've said before numerous times. And I did a couple of, what was it, those 3-minute videos or whatever. And I mentioned as well that Chiron, because it has this strange elliptical orbit, it spends some time between Jupiter and Saturn. It's largely spending most of its time past Saturn, but occasionally it swings in and spends a little bit of time between Jupiter and Saturn, indicating to us from that, from a symbolic point of view, but then in a literal sense, that we have to work with both with Saturn and Jupiter in our chironic journey. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Because we live in a third dimension reality, which is Saturn. It doesn't matter how spiritual we think we are or how spiritualized our life is and so on and so forth. As long as we are in the human body, we are dealing with Saturn. And the key to Saturn, of course, is the integration that enables us to be our own authority, so that we are just in total alignment with Saturn as opposed to projecting it outside of ourselves. When we are in complete embodiment and alignment with Saturn, then we open the door to Chiron, take that deep dive into those fucking deep wounds and pains and fears and experiences of having been rejected, or the fear of being rejected, and so on and so forth. Work through that so that we can actually free ourselves. Remember, Uranus, Prometheus, was chained to a rock and freed because of Chiron. Do you all know that story? Do you remember that myth? So the connection, you know, between Jupiter and Chiron and Uranus is huge. And this conjunction here is huge as well, because Jupiter freed Uranus because Chiron gave up his immortality. and then was made the constellation Sagittarius, right? These are all really important little details in understanding the symbols. So to free ourselves from our own wounds and pain and so on and so forth, and to get to Uranus, to feel a sense of liberation in lenses, in an eye, in the clear eye, pineal gland, that clear eye in your forehead, to see the truth. We just have to work through these painful Chiron matters. There's no escaping it. No escaping it at all. And Saturn's always going to remind us of our limitations, that because we are physical, we're in the physical body, we've got a biological clock, we're all going to age, we're all going to leave this body. We're all going to get old, as it were. We're not going to remain that youthful, beautiful person that we once were on that physical level, at least, right? So we are constantly reminded of this process of death and rebirth every single day, actually. When we go to sleep, when we wake up, that's like a little mini death, mini rebirth, so we are just it's inevitable. We are destined to work, to evolve through this Saturn dimension and through Chiron's cave, and then to some ultimate sense of freedom, to then Neptune Samadhi, which is like the ultimate surrender and truth. These are just some considerations that you guys might want to think about. Love to hear your thoughts and comments, and I will be back soon with what have we got coming up? Full moon in Virgo. Yes, I'll be back for that in a few days' time, a couple of days' time, actually. And I will sign off for now. Okay, much love and many star blessings, and thanks for listening, and see you all soon. Bye.